Now we are going to discuss about the heart. Heart is the main pumping organ of the circulatory system. It is reddish brown in color. It is hollow and muscular organ. So this heart, it is a main pumping organ of circulatory system. It is the main pumping organ of the circulatory system. It is reddish brown in color. Reddish brown in color, and it is hollow and muscular organ. Hollow and muscular organ. The average weight of a human heart in males, it is 300 grams. So in males it is about 300 grams, and in females it is about 250 grams. The average weight of the heart. The average weight of the heart, human heart, it is about 300 grams in males and 250 grams in females. Now this heart is a conical structure. It is conical and it is mediastinum. Now mediastinum means what? It is situated in between two lungs. Now if you have seen the structure of the lungs, this is the left lung, suppose this is the right lung. So here there is a cardiac notch, and here the heart is situated, and it is a conical structure. It is broader at the upper end and it is conical at the lower end, or narrower or conical at the lower end. So this position is called as mediastinum. So it is mediastinum, means in between two lungs, and it is conical. It is conical, broader at upper end and conical at lower end. Broader at upper end, conical at lower end. Now this heart, it is made up of, or it is situated in a membranous sac-like structure that is called as pericardium, or it is situated in a membranous sac that is called as pericardium. It is situated in a membranous sac. That sac is called as pericardium. Pericardium. Now this pericardium is divided into two layers. It is made up of two layers. Pericardium is made up of two layers. First is the fibrous pericardium and second is serous pericardium. This pericardium, it is divided into two layers. First is the fibrous pericardium and second is the serous pericardium. Again further, serous pericardium is divided into two layers. One is the parietal layer and second is the visceral layer. Serous pericardium is divided into two layers again. Parietal layer of pericardium, serous pericardium, and visceral layer of serous pericardium. So here, this is the parietal layer of serous pericardium. This blue colored one which you see here, that is the parietal layer of serous pericardium. And another is the visceral layer of serous pericardium. This black colored layer which you see here, that is the visceral layer of serous pericardium. Now in between these two layers there is a space. That space is called as the pericardial space. In between these two layers, the parietal layer and visceral layer, in between them there is a space that is called as the pericardial space. pericardial space. And this pericardial space consists of fluid. It is filled with a fluid. That fluid is called as pericardial fluid. It is called as pericardial fluid. Filled with. It is filled with pericardial fluid. Now this pericardial fluid, it acts as a shock absorber. This pericardial fluid, it acts as a shock absorber. It acts as a shock absorber. It prevents the heart from mechanical injury, or it protects the heart from mechanical injury, and it keeps the heart moist. It protects from mechanical injury. And it keeps the heart moist. Also, it acts as a lubricant. It acts as a lubricant for the heart. So this two layers, parietal layer and visceral layer, there is a cavity, or there is a space in between them. That space is called as pericardial space, and this pericardial space is filled with a pericardial fluid. This pericardial fluid, it acts as a shock absorber. It protects the heart from mechanical injury, and it keeps the heart moist, and it also acts as a lubricant. Now this heart wall of the wall of the heart, this wall is also made up of three layers. The visceral layer which we saw here, that visceral layer is also called as epicardium. It is the outer layer for the heart wall. It is also called as epicardium. This heart wall is made up of three layers. The outer one is called as epicardium, the middle one is called as myocardium, and the inner one is called as endocardium. So the heart wall, it is made up of three layers. Heart wall, it is made up of three layers. First is the outer one is the epicardium. Middle one is the myocardium, and inner layer is the endocardium. Now this outer epicardium and inner endocardium, these two layers, they are made up of single layer of squamous epithelium. The outer one, epicardium, and the endocardium, they are made up of single layer of squamous epithelium. Whereas this myocardium, it is a thick layer, and it is made up of cardiac muscles. So it is made up of squamous epithelium, single layer of squamous epithelium. This is also made of single layer of squamous epithelium, and these two are thin layers which is made up of only single layer of squamous epithelium. Whereas this myocardium, it is a thick layer and it is made up of cardiac muscles. Now this outer layer and inner layer, epicardium and endocardium, these two layers are protective in nature. Their function is to protect the heart. And this myocardium, it is responsible for the contraction and relaxation of the heart. As it is made up of cardiac muscles, these cardiac muscles, they contract and relax. So this myocardium is responsible for the contraction and relaxation of the heart. So these are the layers by which the heart is made up of. The heart consists of the heart. It is the main pumping organ in the circulatory system. It is reddish brown in color. It is a hollow organ through which the blood passes, and it is muscular organ. In males it is about 300 grams in weight, and in females it is about 250 grams. It is mediastinum, means it is situated or located in between the two lungs, and it is conical, broader at the upper end and conical at the lower end. It is broader at the upper end and it is conical at the lower end. Whereas it is situated in a membranous sac that is called as pericardium. Pericardium is divided into two layers. This pericardium is divided into two layers, fibrous pericardium and serous pericardium. Further, this serous pericardium is divided into two layers, parietal layer of serous pericardium and visceral layer of serous pericardium. This in between these two layers, parietal and visceral layers, there is a cavity or there is a space. That space is called as pericardial space. This pericardial space is filled with a pericardial fluid. This pericardial fluid, it acts as a shock absorber. It protects the heart from the mechanical injury. It keeps the heart wall moist and it acts as a lubricant. Now, the heart wall, it is made up of three layers. The visceral layer which we talked about, it is also the epicardium, the outer layer of the heart wall. The outer one, that is epicardium. The middle layer is the myocardium and the inner layer is the endocardium. This outer layer, epicardium, and this inner endocardium, they are thin layers and they are made up of single squamous epithelium layer. And myocardium is a thick layer and it is made up of cardiac muscles. Epicardium and endocardium are protective in nature, whereas myocardium is responsible for the contraction and relaxation of the heart. Now we will discuss about the external structure of the heart. Now, external structure of the heart is divided into four chambers. Two of them are superior and two of them are inferior. Now suppose this is a heart. This is the shape of the heart. It is broader from the upper side, conical from the lower side. So it is divided into four chambers. Two of them are superior and they are called as auricles or atria. They are called auricles or atria, and two of them are inferior. They are called as ventricles. So the heart is divided into four chambers. Two chambers are superior. They are called as atria. They receive the blood. And two of them are inferior. They are called as ventricles. They pump the blood out of the heart. So, externally, atria are separated from ventricles by transverse groove called as coronary sulcus or atrioventricular groove. Now, these atria and ventricles, they are separated externally by groove that is called as coronary sulcus, or it is also called as atrioventricular groove. Two ventricles are separated by two grooves, anterior and posterior. That grooves are interventricular sulci. Now these two ventricles externally, they are separated by two grooves, anteriors from the anterior side and from the posterior side, and these grooves are called as interventricular sulci. Coronary arteries and coronary veins run through these sulci. So from these separation of these ventricles, those two sulcis, from these sulcis the coronary artery and coronary veins, they run through. Pulmonary trunk arises from the right ventricle and aorta arises from the left ventricle and are on the anterior surface. Now from the pulmonary trunk it arises from the left ventricle. Pulmonary trunk arises from the left ventricle and aorta arises from the right ventricle, and this is on the anterior side of the heart, anterior surface of the heart. Pulmonary trunk bifurcates into left and right pulmonary arteries. So this pulmonary trunk, it bifurcates, it gets divided into left pulmonary artery and right pulmonary artery. Aorta is divisible in three regions: ascending aorta, systemic aorta, and descending aorta. This aorta, it is divisible into three regions: ascending aorta, which arises, the region which arises from the ventricle, and systemic aorta, the middle region, and this aortic arc, this is the descending aorta. Suppose if aorta arises from here, like this. So this region is the ascending aorta, this region will be systemic aorta, and this arc will be descending aorta. Aortic arc is divided into three arteries, further gets divided into three arteries. Those are brachiocephalic artery, left common carotid artery, and left subclavian arteries. This aortic arc, it gets divided into three arteries. Brachiocephalic artery. This brachiocephalic artery takes the blood from the heart to the arm or the head region. And left common carotid artery. This artery takes the blood to the from the heart to the neck and head region. Left subclavian artery. This artery provides the blood from the heart to the left or the right side of the body. So this aortic arc gets divided into three regions or three arteries, that is cephalic, brachiocephalic artery, left common carotid artery, and left subclavian artery. Right atrium receives superior and inferior vena cava. Now this right atrium, it receives superior and inferior vena cava, which bring the deoxygenated blood to the heart. Pulmonary veins are left to the left atrium along the dorsal surface. The pulmonary veins go to the left atrium and along the dorsal surface. Now these pulmonary veins, right and left pulmonary veins, they join the left atrium to the dorsal side. This left pulmonary vein and right pulmonary vein, they join the left atrium from the dorsal side. So this heart, it is divided into four chambers. Two are superior, two are inferior. Superior chambers are called as atria, inferior chambers are called as ventricles. Now we will talk about the internal structure of the heart. As we know that the heart has four chambers, two superior and two inferior. The superior chambers are called as the auricles or the atria, and the inferior chambers are called as the ventricles. So first we will discuss about the atria. These atria, they are thin-walled receiving chambers of the heart. They are thin-walled and they are receiving chambers. Whatever the blood comes to the heart, that blood is received by these atria. They are separated by interauricular septum, and it has an oval depression in it that is called as fossa ovalis. Now suppose this is the structure of a heart. Suppose this is a heart. It is divided into four chambers. It is divided into four chambers. These superior chambers, they are called as atria. Single one is called as atrium, both together plurally are called as atria, and these are the ventricles. Now these two atria, this right atrium and left atrium, these two are separated with a septum. These two are separated with a septum, and this septum is called as the interauricular septum, and it has an oval depression in it that is called as fossa ovalis. It has an oval depression in it. Now why this oval depression is seen in the both the right and left, in between both the right and left auricles? Now during the development of the embryo, at that time what happens, the young one, the heart of the young one, that heart has an opening over here or aperture over here between the right and the left auricle. So through this aperture, the possibility is the blood can flow from right atrium to left atrium. During the development of the embryo, the young one's heart which is there, in that heart, in the septum, interauricular septum, there is a hole or there is a aperture. So through this aperture, the possibility is blood gets mixed over here. So what happens as this young one develops as in adult? So this septum, it gets this aperture, it gets disappeared. It is disappeared, and it gets disappeared, and oval structure is seen over here. It gets closed. That aperture get closed and oval structure is seen here. That oval structure is called as, or oval depression is called as fossa ovalis. Remnant of embryonic aperture. It is the remnant of the embryonic aperture. In the embryonic stage, it is called as foramen ovalis, and as the embryo grows into the adult, what happens? It gets closed, and then it is called as fossa ovalis. Superior vena cava, it is also called as precaval, and inferior vena cava, it is called as postcaval. And coronary sinus, they open into the right atrium. Now superior vena cava, again inferior vena cava, and the coronary sinuses, they open into the right atrium. Coronary sinuses, these are the vessels. They provide blood to the heart. Now as we know, heart pumps the blood to all the body parts, but it also needs blood to work, isn't it? So these coronary vessels or coronary sinuses are those vessels. They provide the blood to the heart. Opening of postcaval is guarded by eustachian valve. Now opening of this inferior vena cava, postcaval, it is guarded by a valve. That is called as the eustachian valve. The Thebesian valve guards the opening of coronary sinus into the right atrium. The coronary sinuses are guarded by the valve called as Thebesian valve, while the inferior vena cava or the postcaval is guarded by the valve that is called as eustachian valve into the right atrium. 4 pulmonary veins open into left atrium and they are without valves. Now 4 pulmonary veins, they open into the left atrium. These right pulmonary veins, 2 pulmonary veins, two right pulmonary veins and 2 left pulmonary veins. 4 pulmonary veins, they open into the left atrium and they are without valves. They do not have valves for guarding. Both atria open into ventricles by atrioventricular aperture. Now both these atria, they open into the ventricles by the atrioventricular apertures. These openings are guarded by cuspid valves. Now openings of these right atrium into the right ventricle and left atrium into the left ventricle. These openings are guarded by cuspid valves. Now the opening of right atrium into the right ventricle is guarded by tricuspid valve, and the opening of left atrium into the left ventricle is guarded by bicuspid valve. Tricuspid valve into the right atrioventricular aperture and bicuspid valve into the left atrioventricular aperture. Means when the right atrium, it opens into the right ventricle through the atrioventricular aperture, there valves are there to guard it. Those are the tricuspid valves. And when the left atrium opens into the left ventricle through the atrioventricular aperture. Here it is guarded by the valves. Those are the bicuspid valves. All these heart valves help in the maintaining unidirectional flow of the blood and also avoid the backflow of the blood. Now, what is the function of these valves? They guard or they help in maintaining the unidirectional flow of the blood. Unidirectional means the blood, it helps the blood to flow in only one direction. Now, suppose if the blood is coming into the right atrium, so that blood, when it reaches the right atrium, it shouldn't flow again backwards. So that is guarded by the valves. The backflow of the blood is guarded by the valves. Also, when the blood from the right atrium goes into the right ventricle, the bicuspid valve, they close the right atrium so that the flow shouldn't be backwards. So these valves, heart valves, they help in maintaining the unidirectional flow of the blood, one-way flow of the blood, and also avoid the backflow of the blood. They protect the blood from flowing backwards. Now we will talk about the ventricles. The ventricles are the inferior thick-walled pumping chambers of the heart. We have seen the atria or the auricles. They are thin-walled and the receiving chambers of the heart. They receive the blood. Whereas the ventricles, they are inferior. They are situated inferiorly. So they are inferior, thick-walled, and they are pumping chambers of the heart. They pump the blood from the heart outwards. So that's why they are pumping chambers of the heart, and they are thick walled. Their walls are very thick as compared to the walls of the atrium or atria. Right ventricle and left ventricle are separated by intraventricular septum. Now, as we have seen, suppose this is the heart. There are 4 chambers of the heart. This is right atrium, this is left atrium, this is the right ventricle, and this is the left ventricle. So these right ventricle and left ventricle, it is both of them are separated by intraventricular valve. Whereas we have seen the right atrium and the left atrium, they were separated by intra-auricular valves. So here these ventricles are separated by intraventricular septum, or not valve, sorry, septum. Right and left ventricles are separated by intraventricular septum, whereas right atrium and left atrium both are separated by intra-auricular septum. Now, walls of left ventricle are more muscular and 3 times thicker than the walls of right ventricle. These walls of left ventricle, these are 3 times thicker than the walls of the right ventricle. They are more muscular than the walls of the right ventricle. Now, as I said, this right and left ventricle, they are separated by a septum. This is the intraventricular septum. Right ventricle and left ventricle, they are separated by intraventricular septum, and the walls of the left ventricle are more muscular than the right ventricle, and they are 3 times thicker than the right ventricle. Now, why is it so? Because the left ventricle has to pump the blood to all parts of the body, whereas the right ventricle pumps the blood to the lungs. So lungs are situated nearby to the heart, isn't it? So much force is not needed to supply the blood from the heart to the lungs, whereas this left ventricle, it has to supply the blood to all parts of the body. So that much force is needed. To create that much force, this left ventricle has its walls are 3 times more thicker and more muscular than the walls of the right ventricle. inner surface of ventricles show ridges called as columnae carneae or trabeculae carneae. Now these inner walls of these ventricles, they show ridges. These are called as columnae carneae. These are called as columnae carneae or trabeculae carneae. Now these divide the lumen of the ventricles into small pockets or fissures. What these do? They divide the lumen, the cavity of the ventricles, into small pockets or fissures. Lumen of ventricles show inelastic fibers called as chordae tendineae. So these the lumen, the cavity of the ventricles, it shows inelastic fibers. These inelastic fibers are called as chordae tendineae. Now these chordae tendineae, they are attached to the papillary muscles. These are the papillary muscles. So here these chordae tendineae, the inelastic fibers which are present in the lumen of the ventricles, they are attached to the papillary muscles. And these papillary muscles, what they do? They control the bicuspid and tricuspid valves. They are attached to the bicuspid and tricuspid valves, and they control or they regulate the opening and closing of these valves. These chordae tendineae, these are inelastic fibers. They are attached to the papillary muscles in the ventricles, and they are also attached to the bicuspid and tricuspid valves. Now what these do, these papillary muscles, when they pull these inelastic fibers, the valves, tricuspid and bicuspid valves, they open, and when they release them, they get closed. So these papillary muscles, they regulate the opening and closing of the tricuspid and bicuspid valves. Right ventricle opens into pulmonary aorta, or you can say here pulmonary trunk. The right ventricle opens into pulmonary trunk. Left ventricle opens into aorta. Now this right ventricle, it opens into pulmonary trunk, and the left ventricle, it opens into aorta. This is pulmonary trunk and this is aorta. So the right ventricle, it opens into the pulmonary trunk, and the left ventricle, it opens into the aorta. The openings are guarded by 3 semilunar valves each, and they avoid the backflow of the blood. Now these openings, they are guarded by 3 semilunar valves each, and these valves, these are the semilunar valves. Semilunar valves. And these openings, these valves, they guard the backflow of the blood. Once the blood is pumped, it goes out through this pulmonary trunk, it goes out through the aorta, and it shouldn't backflow, it shouldn't come back. So to avoid the backflow of the blood, these valves are present over here. These valves get closed and the backflow of the blood is avoided or prevented. So these semilunar valves, they avoid the backflow of the blood. So this is the structure of the ventricles. Ventricles, they are inferior, they are thick walled pumping chambers of the heart. Right ventricle and left ventricle are separated by intraventricular septum. They are separated by intraventricular septum. And walls of the left ventricle are more muscular and 3 times thicker than the right ventricle. The walls of the left ventricle are more muscular and 3 times thicker than the walls of the right ventricle. Why? As I said earlier, because right ventricle pumps the blood towards the lungs. So the lungs are nearby to the heart. So it does not need much force to pump the blood to those lungs. But the left ventricle, it pumps the blood to all parts of the body. So that force is required. So to create that force, the walls of the left ventricle are more thicker and 3 times, more muscular and 3 times thicker than the right ventricle. The lumen of the ventricles show elastic fibers that are inelastic fibers that are called as chordae tendineae, and these are attached to the bicuspid and tricuspid valves and also to the papillary muscles. These papillary muscles, when they contract, when they pull these elastic fibers, the valves they open. When they release these elastic fibers, the valves get closed. So these control, or these regulate the opening and closing of the bicuspid and tricuspid valves. Right ventricles open into pulmonary trunk or pulmonary aorta, whereas left ventricle opens into the aorta. Right ventricle opens into the pulmonary trunk, left ventricle opens into the aorta. And the openings are guarded by three semilunar valves. These valves, they avoid the backflow of the blood. They prevent the backflow of the blood. Whereas we talked about the auricles or atria, they are thin walled as compared to the ventricles. They are thin walled and they are the receiving chambers of the heart, whereas the ventricles are the pumping chambers of the heart. Now let us talk about the pumping action of the heart. Now, as we know, the heart is the main pumping organ of the circulatory system. The heart, it is the main pumping organ of the circulatory system. It pumps blood to the body or to the parts of the body. So it is the main pumping organ of the circulatory system. Now, pumping action is brought about by the contraction and relaxation of the cardiac muscles. The cardiac muscles which are present in the walls of the heart, those cardiac muscles, they contract and relax, isn't it? So this pumping action is brought about by the cardiac muscles. The pumping action is brought about by the contraction and relaxation of cardiac muscles or heart muscles. Cardiac muscles or heart muscles. So, the pumping action of the heart, it is brought about by the contraction and relaxation of the cardiac muscles or the heart muscles. The contraction of the muscles. Contraction of the muscles, heart muscles. Contraction of the heart muscles is called as systole. Whereas the relaxation of heart muscles is called as diastole. The contraction of the heart muscles is called as systole, whereas the relaxation of the heart muscles is called as diastole. Now, a single systole is followed by the diastole. Single systole is followed by a diastole. This is called as a heartbeat, or it is called as one heartbeat. When the single systole is followed by the diastole, this is called as one heartbeat. So, the heart beats about 70 to 72 times per minute, and this is called as the heart rate. Heart beats about 70 to 72 times per minute, and this is called as the heart rate. Now, during each heartbeat, what happens? The heart pumps the blood, the ventricles pump the blood about 70 milliliters. During each heartbeat, ventricles pump blood, pump about 70 milliliters of blood each heartbeat. During one heartbeat, the ventricles, they pump about 70 milliliters of blood. It means that the heart pumps about 5040 milliliters of blood. So it means that the heart pumps about 5040 milliliters of the blood, or you can say 5 liters of blood per minute. So this is called as the cardiac output. Cardiac output. It is called as the cardiac output. Now, how this cardiac output is calculated? The heart rate multiplied by the stroke volume. Now this during each heartbeat, the ventricles pump about 70 milliliters of blood. That is called as the stroke volume. This is called as stroke volume. So heart rate multiplied by stroke volume is equal to the cardiac output. Therefore, here the heart rate is about 70 to 72 times per minute. So here we will write 72 multiplied by the stroke volume, that is 70 milliliters, is equal to the cardiac output which we get, that is 5040 milliliters or 5 liters of blood, and that too per minute. It is per minute. So this is the pumping. This is how the pumping action is carried out in the heart. The heart, as we know, it is the main pumping organ of the circulatory system. So the pumping action of the heart is brought about by the contraction and relaxation of the cardiac muscles or the heart muscles. Contraction and relaxation of the heart muscles, when this contraction and relaxation is done, it means the heart pumps the blood out. So one contraction is called as systole and one relaxation is called as diastole. The contraction of the heart muscles is called as systole, whereas the relaxation of the heart muscles is called as diastole. When those same muscles, they contract, that is called as systole, and when they relax, that is called as diastole. Now a single systole is followed by a diastole. This is called as one heartbeat. When a single systole, when a single contraction is followed by a diastole, that is relaxation, that is called as one heartbeat. The heart beats about 70 to 72 times per minute. Our heart, it beats about 70 or 72 times per minute. This is called as the heart rate. It is called as heart rate. Now during each heartbeat, the ventricles, they pump the blood out. They pump about 70 milliliters of the blood. Now this is called as the stroke volume of the heart. How much blood is pumped out of the ventricles? That is called as the stroke volume of the ventricles or stroke volume of the heart. Heart pumps about, so therefore in total, heart pumps about 5040 milliliters of the blood per minute or 5 liters of blood per minute. This is called as the cardiac output. So, how is the cardiac output calculated? The heart rate, that is 72 times per minute. Stroke volume 70 milliliters and is equal to, when it is multiplied, it is equal to 5040 milliliters or 5 liters of blood per minute.